The Nashville Predators currently occupy the first wildcard spot in the Western Conference, but they have an extremely difficult schedule to close out the year. Today, we're going to take a look at the Preds, where they're at, and what their potential path to the playoffs looks like. Let's go. Hey, everybody. So today, we're going to be looking at the Nashville Predators, where they're at in the standings, their remaining schedule, and how the Preds can get themselves locked into a playoff spot. They are a part of a very, very tight race in the Western Conference right now, currently holding the first wild card position and have a not big cushion, but at least a little bit of a cushion of 4 points to the good in holding a playoff spot in the West. So we'll get into it here, as we'll start by taking a look at the standings and where the Preds are at right now. You can see 89 points on the year, and Nashville probably is not going to catch any of the top three teams in the division. Minnesota and St. Louis are both at 96 points, which is 7 more than the Predators have. I don't think Nashville's making up 7 points in the last 9 games, so they're definitely going to be looking at being a wild card team this year. They're at 89. Dallas is right behind them at 88. And then we have Vegas 4 points back at 85. And Vancouver 7 points back at 82. Winnipeg probably not going to make it now, down at 81. I think Vancouver even is at this point is a pretty big long shot. But they're not completely out of it yet, but they're kind of getting there, where they just haven't been able to make up enough ground. Like, they're still 6 points out of a playoff spot. I really think it's down to Vegas, Dallas, Nashville, and then LA, Pacific-wise, is still in it, but that doesn't really affect Nashville a whole lot because they're in the other division, unless Vegas catches LA and then knocks LA back to being, that in where Vegas is now, one spot out, and then trying to get in. So the big thing overall for Nashville, I think, is to focus on, making sure that they stay ahead of Dallas and Vegas. And even they don't have to stay ahead of Dallas. Obviously, they're only 1 point back, same number of games played. They don't have to stay ahead of Dallas. They'll still be in the playoffs if they get caught by the Stars. They have to stay ahead of Vegas. Vegas at 85 points right now, 3 points out of a playoff spot. 74 games played, which means Nashville does have a game in hand on the Golden Knights. But they just need to make sure that they keep Vegas in the rearview mirror. That's the number one thing here for the Nashville Predators, because that is what's going to get them into the playoffs. Nashville hasn't been overly great in their last 10 games, just 5-4-1, which is a little bit above 500. They did win a big one last night, though, over the San Jose Sharks. And if we look here, they've been a good home team, 23-12-0 at home this year, only 19-14-5 away. So that's going to play in, because when we look at the remaining schedule for Nashville, they have a lot of home games left remaining. So if they can pick up some of those wins at home, that's going to be huge. So let's take a look at this schedule here. This is big, because this is a very difficult remaining schedule for the Predators. And Dallas, on the other hand, does not have a very difficult remaining schedule. Vegas also has some tough ones the rest of the way. This is going to end up being, I think, a very tight race. But if we look here at the remaining schedule for the Nashville Predators, Thursday night, tomorrow night, they play the Edmonton Oilers. That is not going to be an easy game, but it is in Nashville. Saturday, they play Chicago. That's a very winnable game, and a game that the Predators need to make sure they get 2 points out of. On Sunday, they've got a tough one against St. Louis, second game of a back-to-back. And then they have to play Calgary on Tuesday night. Calgary is the best team in the Pacific Division and going to be a very difficult opponent. They go on the road to play the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday the 23rd. Then they have to come back home and play Minnesota on Sunday the 24th. So that's a second game of a back-to-back with travel in between. Now, Nashville has beaten Minnesota every time that they've played this year. They're 3-for-3 so far against the Wild. But second game of a back-to-back, that is definitely still going to be a tough one. They have to play Calgary again on the 26th, and then they close out the season on the road at Calgary or at Colorado, excuse me, at Colorado. That's going to be a tough one. And then at Arizona to finish out the year, obviously that's a winnable game. But Nashville is hoping that that last game isn't going to be a determining factor. Hopefully they're locked in before then. But this is not an easy schedule the rest of the way. I think of all of the teams that I've looked at so far in this Western Conference race, this is the toughest remaining schedule that I've seen. Now, the good news is that 6 of their remaining 9 games are on home ice. And as we saw with the record, the Predators are a pretty good home team. So having 6 out of 9 at home is definitely a benefit to Nashville. The other side of that, though, is that other than the Arizona and Chicago games, 7 of their 9 remaining games are against playoff teams. So it's a very difficult schedule. Only 2 of the 9 remaining games are, games that should be easy wins against non-playoff teams. 7 of these remaining 9 are against tough opponents that are going to be difficult to beat and put up a very good fight. Nashville has got to find a way to win at least a couple of these tough games. There are 89 points right now. And if you look at the standings where everybody's at, I think 97 points gets you into the playoffs. That would mean Nashville needs another 8 points or 4 wins. So I'm thinking that 4 more wins gets the Predators to 97 points and gets them into the playoffs. Can they do that? Well, we know they have the Chicago game. So that, you can't chalk it up as a win yet, but they need to win that game. They need to beat Chicago. That's a very winnable game. And they need to beat Arizona. That's a very winnable game against one of the worst teams in the league. That means they only need to find a way to win 2 of these other very difficult games that they have. So if they can beat St. Louis, if they can beat Edmonton, if they can beat Calgary just 1 out of the 2 times, if they can beat Minnesota again and sweep the season series, if they can find a way to win 2 of those tough games, and then make sure that they take care of business against Arizona and Chicago, I think Nashville's into the playoffs. Because if you look at Vegas, how far back they are, Nashville's got the game in hand over Vegas. Vegas has to try and make up 4 points. The Golden Knights don't have the easiest remaining schedule either. All in all, I think if Nashville just wins 4 more games, because for Vegas to get to 97 points, they're 85 right now. So they need 12 more points with only, 8 games remaining? They would need to get 12 points with only 8 games remaining, meaning they need to win 6 out of 8, basically, to close out the year, or lose some more in overtime and rather than regulation and get points that way. But they kind of need to win 6 out of 8, or 5, or go like 5-1-2 or something like that to the rest of the way to get to 97 points. Nashville, they just need to win 4 out of 9 to get to 97 points. And I think the Predators can do that. It's definitely not going to be easy. It's definitely a tough schedule here the rest of the way. But I do think the Predators are going to get in, and they're going to be able to do that. So, again, the Chicago game, you got to take care of business in that one. You got to beat Arizona at the end of the year, but they've got to find a way to win at least a couple of these tough matchups, which a lot of them are on home ice. So I think that ends up helping Nashville because they are a good home team. And all in all, I think they can get the job done. So for the Predators here, of all the teams that I've looked at, Dallas, Vegas, LA, Nashville's got the toughest remaining schedule with just the quality of opponents that they have to face. However, they're also in a very good spot as far as where they're at going into this final stretch. They're 4 points to the good of a playoff spot. They've got 9 games remaining where, Vegas only has 8, so they've got a game in hand over Vegas. They don't have to stay ahead of the Dallas Stars. If Dallas ends up passing them for that first wild card spot, it's not a huge deal. Obviously, it would mean that they would then have to play Colorado in the first round, and that would not be fun. But they're still in the playoffs, at least. They're still making the playoffs, even if Dallas passes them. The team that they cannot allow past them is the Vegas Golden Knights. And right now, I think they're in a decent position to hold Vegas off, maintain a playoff spot, and stay a wild card team in the West this year and be going to the postseason. So that's what I've got on the Nashville Predators and their path to the playoffs. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, membership, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.